told you, I lied in my first and second trial to save myself.
Well, let's get to the second trial. Just like you're lying here to save yourself, right?
I'm not saving myself, I'm telling the truth this time.
Right, because now, all of a sudden, after 8 years, you have developed a conscience. I think that's what you told the jury.
No, it's because the father of my children was on death penalty at that time on my first trial, so I couldn't give up. If it was just Charlie, like I said from the trial, go ahead and arrest him. Nobody ever did.
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
Okay, how is everybody? Wanted to talk to you today about Katherine Magbanua's Hoax. But before I do, a little spring cleaning as far as the channel is concerned. Not to go into any detail, but I have become aware that my most recent episodes about Alec Baldwin and Hannah Gutierrez Reed, specifically last night's episode, has been, how do I say this, edited by YouTube. I woke up this morning to find that they had taken pretty much a hacksaw to it. So I have put up the entire episode the way I intended. And the reason why that episode and not any of my other episodes on the subject is because, hold on one second. Sorry, I had to cough. That episode, what they took out was things related to the victim, the footage of her, Helena Hutchins, her husband talking about her, and I really would like it viewed in its entirety. So it is on Patreon, but it is unlocked. So anyone can view it in its entirety. It is up there for you to watch. So I also want to get into your comments. Last time we talked about the Adelsons, we were talking about a YouTuber who apparently did a response video that I didn't even get to watch because he made it for pay, as is his way, is what I hear. He's probably a lot smarter than I am as far as monetizing. So I didn't even really get to hear his response to the criticisms. Last time I had on the Society page, great guest, and it's Miss Shorty, and I just want to thank them both for being such terrific guests. We were talking about his disinformation and really attacking people in this case that is unwarranted. And I just want to say one other thing before I read this comment. Hold on one second. I just want to say one thing, which is, I think maybe one or two people said, oh, that's what you do. You put out a theory. But anytime I put out a theory, I make it clear it's very clear it's a theory and it's based on available facts and things that are in evidence. This is really, I feel, what I've heard him posit things about characters in this case that really don't want to be a character. Who would want to be, let's say, Jeffrey Lacasse or Robert Adelson? They were pulled into this by no fault of their own, and they do not deserve the kind of unfair accusations. And this YouTuber has commented and left comments. You can read them, unless he's taken them down, in that episode with It's Miss Shorty and the Society page. So that's really all I really want to say about him. Maria Kinder 115 says, "Hi, Roberta, great show. Thank you. I confronted the New Zealand guy a few weeks ago about how an accusation that Jeff has a record of DV, which he hasn't, because let's be honest, if he did, the prosecution would have brought it in to prove how naive Wendy is to keep choosing controlling men. He responded he would do a show and prove his evidence. Of course, I'm still waiting for his proof because he has none. There's definitely a pro-Adelson movement about just now." This is what Maria's saying. But let's not forget, for all Wendy's left woke beliefs, she hired a Trump lawyer, hypocrite that she is. This is where the good PR is coming from. That's Maria's theory. Also, they're well-connected friends, the Weinsteins, Charlie's first lawyer before Rashbaum. Okay. The Net Owl says, "Georgia questioned Wendy about WhatsApp at length. I think that's what she is saving up for later. Charlie backed up his WhatsApp conversations to the cloud, from what I understand." That's very interesting. And from what Murder by Maestro is telling me is that these cell phone records can go back all the way back. So we know that they're going through now. Wonder what they can find. Murder by Maestro, Cellbrite, that's really his area of expertise. But it was very interesting on the stand when Wendy's asked about WhatsApp. She certainly got uncomfortable. She wasn't sure. Another thing she didn't recall. The Net Owl, remember that? She didn't recall. She thinks so. She thinks she used WhatsApp because she's pretty sure she did, but she's not certain. She was on her friend to England on the phone when she did the drive-by. So she thinks she would be on WhatsApp. Pretty interesting. And Dolores Stroneman 6032 says, "Luis Rivera is more of a human being than Wendy. Luis pleaded guilty." That's fair. And I was thinking today about how in all, and you have to excuse me if you hear that ruckus going on. That's the sound of New York City behind me. Some serious police or ambulance or a car alarm going off. It's making me mad. Did you guys hear that? I don't know if you can even hear that. That I was thinking about how we want to make heroes in these stories. And it really says something about how awful the Adelsons are when people are loving Luis Rivera. And I don't just mean by that comment, because I think that's a fair comment to say, well, he pled guilty and that makes him better. But how awful the Adelsons are in comparison. If people are loving Luis Rivera, who we know will, after he's helped out with substances, helped out with his car, he thanks this guy by robbing him. So he would just as soon rob you as do anything else. And yet he comes across looking like the good guy. Also, before I get into today's episode, hold on one second. I'd like to thank those who recently became Patreon members: Debra Couture, Cindy Poschesci, And Robyn Ray, thank you for upping your membership. I appreciate it so much. So let us get into what I have for you today. So Katie, right before her second trial, perpetrated a hoax. And this was going to be the big reveal. So she had a prison snitch come in and say, Luis Rivera told them everything. Katie knew nothing. And that the best part is that Georgia Kappelman was giving Luis Rivera secret, not hand signs. She didn't want to use her hands. She just wanted to use folders, right? What folders to show him what to give him signs of what to talk about, to give him information. She would use different color codes. So let's get into it. Let's look at the news coverage from the time.
5, a new defense for the women accused of playing a role in a Florida State professor's death nearly 7 years ago. Tonight, attorneys for
Look at Katie Magbanua's Crystal Gale hair. That's a really old reference, but look at it.
Magbanua,
it's going all the way down her back. Kind of amazing, no?
This time around. ABC 27's Jada Williams joins us live from the Leon County Courthouse now. Jada, who's behind those letters that have defense feeling pretty confident this time around?
Channing, Walter Rayburn is the man behind those letters. He's currently in a Leon County jail right now for facing double homicide charges from something that stemmed in 2015. But he is alleging that the star witness for the prosecution in
Oh, I kind of buried the lead. This guy in prison with Luis Rivera, he eventually got tried and sentenced in 2020 to multiple life sentences for a double homicide and arson.
While on the witness stand.
So just
new hope for the woman who says she had no role in the death of Florida State professor Dan Markell.
Mr. Rayburn reached out to me from jail and wrote me the letter that we provided in discovery.
A letter Tara Kwas believes will play a crucial role in getting her client, Katherine Magbanua, a not guilty verdict in her next trial. Katherine Magbanua is accused of orchestrating the murder of FSU law professor Dan Markell. Luis Rivera is already serving time for his part in Markell's death. In a letter to Magbanua's attorney, a fellow inmate says Rivera lied about Magbanua's involvement in exchange for a plea deal.
Who do you believe convinced Mr. Garcia to take this job?
His wife, Katie.
That inmate, Walter Rayburn, is accused of shooting two people and trying to burn down their apartment. State Attorney Jack Campbell says Rayburn is a threat to society and not worth believing.
Of course, the allegations are preposterous, and they're being made by a multi-murderer, neo-Nazi, convicted felon.
In one of the letters sent to Kwas from Rayburn, it claims the
these letters are ridiculous. So Rivera bragged to me that Ms. Kappelman taught him hand signals to look for different colored folders. So he's calling them hand signals. I would call that folder signals. She would hold. So if she got to going in the, so if she got him go, okay, wait. So let me read it the way he wrote it. So if he got to going in the wrong direction on the stand, he would know to stop, continue, etc., etc. He's not really sure how this folder thing works out. It's just something with colors. So I guess a red folder means stop, a green folder means go. How does it work? How does it work exactly? How many colored folders did she have? And if I ever had the pleasure of meeting Georgia Kappelman, I would really want her to show me this amazing folder trick that she doesn't have. And I love how he's pointing to it. See, when I worked for Oprah, I was trained by Gavin DeBecker in threat assessment, one of the things you look at is organization on the page of these things. And look how disorganized this is. He's pointing to things, claimed it was like being in a movie. That's what it says on the side there. So this folder, it was like watching a movie. She put up the folders. Yeah, yellow. Airdrie says yellow, proceed with caution. Exactly. Oh, I want my own Roberta Glass colored folders so everyone can make their own hand signals or folder signals.
Prosecution held up color-coded folders while Rivera testified to remind him what to say. The letter also reads, quote, Rivera told me and other inmates countless times that Katie never truly was involved. He says Rivera was forced to lie in order to get a plea deal, something that Magbanua's attorneys believe could be.
Not for nothing, but is that my computer or was Katie just totally out of focus there? And was that just an odd shot?
Be the case.
The evidence actually does support that, because the amount of times that they had met with Luis Rivera and didn't cut a deal with him, and then in September, right before Catherine's arrest, all of a sudden he mentioned Catherine's name. He had figured out at that time that if I don't say her name, they're not going to cut any deal with me. And so that is what makes the most sense to me, and that is what's most believable.
While Kawhi says Rayburn has
Right. All of a sudden, he decided to tell the whole truth when he realized that his chances were dimming for cutting a deal.
Nothing to gain from getting involved in the trial. Campbell disagrees.
Right now, Ms. Kappelman is an extremely good prosecutor who is seeking to have him incarcerated for the rest of his life and perhaps put to death. So,
while that might be the case, the defense moves ahead, now seeking more letters tied to the case, including ones Rivera sent to prosecutors.
So, Jada, has Raybaum been tied to any other cases?
Well, State Attorney...
Well, you know that's going to be a yes when when that question's asked. Has he ever been in trouble with the law before? Is this good Samaritan who's just for his own, for just doing the right thing, coming forward? Has he ever been in trouble before? Heavy nod.
Attorney Jack Campbell says that he has tried to intervene in other cases that prosecutor Georgia Kappelman is involved in. Now, Georgia Kappelman is the assistant state attorney on Rayburn's case as well as Magbanua's case, and he says that he feels like it's all to try to get back at her for prosecuting him. In Tallahassee, Jada Williams, ABC 27.
All right, let's just recap what happened here. Dan Markel was found.
Okay, we don't need to recap. So in case you don't know, Dan Markel was sadly murdered in 2014. Same year, Rivera accepted a plea deal. 2019, Sigfredo Garcia was found guilty. And that same time, Magbanua gets a hung jury. All right. I'm going to take a quickie break. When I get back with the break, we're going to hear from Luis Rivera, Mr. Folder Signal himself. I'll be back in a little bit more than 30 seconds. Don't go anywhere. If you are enjoying this episode of my True Crime Report, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode. Get access to exclusive podcasts and other bonus content by becoming a patron today. If you have a question or comment for me, shoot me a super chat and I'll do my best to answer it and read it on air. Thanks so much. Now back to the show. Okay, we are back. All right, let me get rid of the hand signals video and show you this. So this is from Katie's second trial, and Luis Rivera's testimony is over 3 hours long altogether. And in the interest of time, I'm going to start on day number 3 of her trial, where he comes back. His testimony was interrupted. This is the second half of his cross. I'm going to start there with Katie's lawyer. I think his name is Christopher. I believe that's right. DeCoste. Excellent attorney. I think one of the better defense attorneys I've seen in this case. But given Rachbaum is not a high bar, I think he's just about average lawyer.
Good morning,
not
everyone.
Great. Extremely with, I think his benefit to the Adelsons is that this is my view, is extremely willing to work in the area that the Adelsons like to work. You can read into that what you will. That's my view of him. You know, I'm thinking of Breaking Bad. You want a criminal lawyer. Remember that bit?
All right, please be seated. And thank you again for everyone's timeliness and arriving on time and your attentiveness. And we're ready to continue now with the cross-examination of Mr. Rivera. So we're going to bring Mr. Rivera into the courtroom at this time. Good morning, Mr. Rivera. Before you have a seat, it's a new day, so we're going to swear you in again, okay, sir? Please raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give shall be the truth?
Boy, is he short. So what's interesting about this snitch is the letter. So there's included in the defense filing a letter from Rivera, but you can't really read it. Let me see if I can show it to you for a hot minute. Hold on one second. I pulled it up. Yeah, I think this is it. Oh. Yeah. Okay, I believe this is. So this is the letter from Rivera. This is what you can read. And there's an interesting part where he says to this prison snitch that he doesn't live in Tallahassee, and he encourages him. He says he encouraged Sigfredo Garcia to get a real lawyer. And at that time, he had a lawyer. So was he meaning get a lawyer not connected to the Adelsons? Remember, this is back in 2020. And here's the letter all about the folders. But sadly, this is what's left of Rivera's letter in the defense filing. It's really hard to read. As you know, Rivera is pretty much illiterate. He had to listen to his statements and not be shown his statements. He can read, but not at a more advanced level. And it's a lot of scribbles and it's all falling off the page. Again, showing a really disorganized mind. So something that would alert me if I were back working or concerned about threat detection.
That's good. Thank you. Mr. DeCoste, you may continue with your cross-examination.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera, last night when you left here, you went back to the jail, right?
Yes, sir.
When you go back to the jail, it's you, yourself, and your cell, right?
Yes, sir.
And it's been that way since you were arrested in 2016 on this case, right?
Yes, sir.
So what that means is you're not going through the daily activities that a person on the outside goes through, right?
Yes, sir.
You don't have to remember to turn off the stove, pick up the kids, stuff like that.
Yes, sir.
You don't have to remember to file your taxes, to go to the doctors, go to the dentist, stuff like that, right?
Yes, sir.
It's been a matter of being in your cell with your thoughts, with your agreement with this office, right?
Yes, sir.
Your sole job since 2016 has to be to remember your testimony in this case.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about guns. The June trip, there was 2 guns, right?
Yes, sir.
Both 38 caliber,
Yes, sir.
38 Smith & Wesson short nose,
Yes, sir.
and a blue steel long nose Taurus.
Yes, sir.
Garcia had the blue steel,
Yes, sir.
you had the short nose.
Yes, sir.
You agree you bought that short nose.
Yes, I did, sir.
You bought it to come up here.
Yes, sir.
And you bought it from a quote, neighborhood from a black boy.
Yes, sir.
That's what you told law enforcement about where you acquired this gun.
Yes, I did.
And again, to make sure it's clear, you acquired this gun after a conversation with Garcia
Yes, sir.
while he was renting the car to come here.
Yes.
And you don't know the name or even really a description of the guy that you got the gun from.
No, sir.
Yeah, it gets really hazy. It's a good thing to hone in on. It's what I honed in on with this police interview, is that he didn't remember the name of the person who gave him the gun. So unbelievable, right?
Correct me if I'm wrong, the Latin Kings transfer and distribute guns.
Yes, sir.
On direct examination, Ms. Kappelman asked you how many guns were brought for the murder trip, right?
Yes, sir.
And your answer was 2.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to ask you again. How many guns were brought for the second trip, your second trip, the murder trip?
Can't remember.
Would it help your memory to listen to your statement from October 4th of 2016?
Yes, sir.
If you could put on those headphones for me, please. Oh. Yeah. Mr. Rivera, did listening to yourself refresh your recollection?
Yes, sir.
And I'll ask you again, how many guns were brought?
1.
All right, so now we have it. Not what you told the government when they asked you the question about 2 guns, now it's 1 gun.
Yes, sir. I mean, we all make mistakes. It's been 8 years. Memories, you forget stuff. 8 years, who's going to remember?
And again, the only thing that you've had to remember over the past 8 years.
I think what's so scary about Luis Rivera is that he comes across so reasonable and has some charisma to him. I know he's, 5 foot nothing, really short, but he comes across and this, oh, yes, sir, memory's not so good. Like, oh, yeah, I can relate to that. And then you think about what he really likes to do. You know, he really likes to rob people. That's his favorite pastime. Scary. Scary how charming these types can be, criminal types can be.
Is your testimony?
Yeah, I don't sit down in my cell and think about this right here.
Let's talk about the bullets. You bought those, correct?
Yes, sir.
You bought those at a gun store?
Yes, sir.
On Biscayne,
Yes, I did.
in between 112th and 117th.
Yes, sir.
Now, the guns that we spoke about, there's the blue steel long nose and the short nose, the one that you bought.
Yes, sir.
All right, so the short nose that you bought, that gun was the one that was dumped.
Yes, sir.
And it was dumped, you say, near a bridge
Yes, sir.
by Garcia
Yes, sir.
on the ride home.
Yes, sir.
Now, you claim that you wanted to help them find the murder weapon, right?
Yes, sir.
But in actuality, you never wanted them to find it.
No, I don't know what bridge. There's so many bridges we passed through. I'm not gonna.
Correct me if I'm wrong, law enforcement knows the very precise route you took, so it's not a matter of checking all bridges in the state of Florida,
I'm
correct?
not gonna remember the bridge, sir.
That's not my question. Law enforcement knows the precise route that you took home, right?
I guess so.
And they drove you on that precise route.
Yes, sir.
And you never pointed out the alleged bridge that the gun
I
was.
passed through so many bridges, sir. I'm not gonna remember. Just like I told them, I don't remember the bridge.
I'm showing you what's been entered in defense 6.
So what is your guys' opinion on this bridge? Do you think he just kept it or traded it? Do you think he ever threw it off any bridge? Because it was never recovered.
This was your best attempt at helping them find the murder weapon in this case, right?
Yes,
You
sir.
drew this.
Yes, sir.
Now, let's talk about the amount of times that you went out looking with them. You haven't been out with them since 2016, correct?
Yes, sir.
And in fact, you only went out a couple of times, a couple of days.
So as interesting as this cross is, it gets really interesting in redirect. So one of the reasons I picked out this piece of footage is he talks about two things I've talked about that are mysteries for me in this case. One is the confrontation between Sigfredo Garcia and Charlie Adelson. And I of the opinion that it didn't happen and that it was given as a reason why Sigfredo called Harvey Adelson. Because it's really one of the really only connectors of Harvey in this. One of the few, besides the fact that all the checks were coming from his business. I don't know, maybe you could say Charlie owned it at the time, but then it went back. So it goes back and forth. So it's a little hazy there. But the other thing that is talked about is brought up in another episode. One of my episodes is the police report or the affidavit from the prosecution describing two men coming from the back of Dan Markel's house with wet pants, carrying a black item in their hands. And Luis Rivera denies that that was he. So kind of two interesting things coming up in redirect.
A couple of hours to look for this gun, right?
I don't remember a couple of times, but I don't remember.
Was it less than that?
Maybe one time.
One time you get into a van, they drive around, look at a couple of bridges, and then give up.
I mean, I can't remember.
Mr. Rivera, isn't it true that you did what you said you were going to do, which is to put it away and bury that shit somewhere? No one is going to find it but me.
Yes, sir.
You said that, right?
Yes, I did.
And that's what you did with this gun.
No, sir.
The gun was never found, right?
I never dished it nowhere. I never threw it nowhere. That wasn't my job.
You bought the gun.
I bought the gun.
You handled the gun.
Handle it? Like what type of...
My job was not to go out and bury that S. Bury that S so no one will find it. That wasn't my job to bury that S. It's just funny to hear a lawyer. repeat his words?
Well, you remember how you told us that time that the guy walked in the hotel room and you picked up both guns and you pointed it at them?
Yes, sir.
All right, so you touched that gun.
Yes, I did.
And you gave vague information where it was acquired from, and you gave very little information as to where it was disposed of. You did that to protect yourself on both ends, didn't you?
Not at all, sir.
Now, you are aware.
So Janie Garner, 442, says, Luis Rivera seems sincere. I hope he gets rehabilitated one day. So my understanding is he was on his own as a child. And what I've been thinking about today is it even possible? Has he gotten too much of a taste of the criminal lifestyle?
You could be
Let me know
federally
what you
prosecuted.
guys think.
You know that.
No, sir.
Do you not know that? Do you not remember?
Me being prosecuted if they find a gun?
Do you not remember knowing that if they had that gun, they could tie it to interstate commerce? Do you not remember knowing that?
No, I don't remember.
Your Honor, if I could have one brief moment.
Right.
Second deposition, page 279, lines 1 through 9.
See what Mr. Rivera understands first. You're going to refresh his recollection? Let's see what Mr. Rivera understands first.
She's going to do that as well, Your Honor.
Okay. You may.
To save the truth.
So Dr. Zapp is saying there's something about this guy, and I think you're talking about Luis Rivera, Dr. Zapp, that's kind of endearing. It's frightening. It frightens me. It's a really good act, a better act than Wendy Adelson has, that's for sure.
Mr. Rivera, this young lady is just going to give you some assistance with reviewing this transcript. If you feel comfortable reviewing it yourself and understanding it, then you can review it and understand it, and you just let me know. But if for some reason you don't, she's going to help you or read it to you quietly. Excuse me?
She's going to have to help me.
Okay, all right. That's what she'll do then. Thank you.
All set.
Wow, it's the day of the extremely long hair in court day. Or it's the day of footage of women with extreme long hair in court. By the way, Hannah Gutierrez Reed, if she gets acquitted, I will be so surprised. It's really not looking good for her at all. And even worse for Alec Baldwin, I think. But Murder by Maestro disagrees with me. He thinks they don't have much on him. I don't know. I'm seeing it very differently, but again, I tend to favor the prosecution, although watching the Hannah Gutierrez Reed trial, it's been a really eye-opening experience in that I find I really have a hard time with the prosecutor. I'm glad the judge finally laid down the law. Just her interrupting and not giving the defense any kind of breathing room. And I think that she's letting the cameras get the worst of her, meaning she's playing up to the cameras and very aware of them. And I understand it must be, if you're a lawyer and you've worked your whole day in obscurity and you have your one moment, the thing you're going to be remembered for, it may be an intoxicating thing.
I'll speak loud. Thank you.
Mr. Rivera, has your memory been refreshed?
Yes, sir.
And we were talking about why you would hide the origin and the disposal of the gun. And I had asked you about you being federally prosecuted. You were aware and you know that if they have that gun, they could tie it to interstate commerce and federally prosecute you on this case.
Yes, and it says that I'm not sure, but yes.
Yes, that you are aware of that. Not sure if they could, but you're aware that it's a possibility.
Yes, not sure if they could, but yes, I'm aware of it.
And that's something that would be a concern because you can't fight the feds.
Yes, sir.
Now that gun, it would be evidence against you, right?
Yes, sir.
That you're the shooter.
I'm not the shooter.
You know, it's interesting that you say that. If I could have one moment to get into this here. Mr. Rivera, your testimony is that you drove up this driveway behind that car and that Garcia got out, went inside, and shot Professor Markel, right?
Yes, sir.
But you knew that Professor Markel's window was up, right?
Yes, I can see it.
You also knew that he was on the phone when he got shot, right?
I pulled up right behind him. I can see him.
And you also knew, you happened to have the detail, that he raised his arm when he was shot in the face.
I can see that too.
Those are odd details for Sigfredo Garcia to shoot him, to jump back in the car and say,
Oh boy, those are some terrible details. Horrible to hear about, but Luis Rivera this is the kind of witness you want. Very clear, doesn't get riled up when he's challenged, takes it nice and easy, never raises his voice, never gets persnickety in cross. He's a good witness, and so was Katie. Everybody said Katie's going to be such a bad witness. Why is the state doing it? Mistake, mistake, mistake.
drive. Hey, and by the way, he was on his phone, the window was up, and he raised his arm.
I can see everything, sir. I'm pulled up right behind him.
And also nice and short answers, too. He doesn't like to give context like the Adelsons do on the stand.
Let's stay in the driveway and return to the issue from yesterday. When I was asking you questions about your testimony about claiming to see Wendy Adelson walk down that driveway and into the house the day before the murder, and I'm going to give this to you for context so you know where I'm going. You remember how I had asked you questions about your exchange with Garcia, how he said she's here to make sure it's getting done, how then he made a phone call to Katherine Magbanua, and he made that before noon on Thursday. Now, I asked you that question you didn't remember. Do you remember now? Was that phone call before noon on Thursday?
I don't remember the time.
Would it help your memory if you were to listen to yourself from your recording on 10/4?
Maybe.
What clip is this, please?
So they're going to say, terrible, terrible memory. Right? I just moved past this.
On November 29, 2016, you appeared before a grand jury in this case, correct?
Yes, sir.
On March 22nd, 2019, you appeared for a deposition in this case, correct?
Yes, sir.
January 31st, 2018, the year before, a different deposition in this case, correct?
Yes, sir.
You sat in that chair before back in 2019 on October 1st and October 2nd, correct?
Yes, I did, sir.
And you have never made that claim before that there was a disposable phone.
Believe I have.
Isn't this you just evolving your story to keep up for the mistakes?
No, sir.
Let's talk about cars. Let's focus now.
No, sir. Georgia, can you raise that folder up? I can't tell if it's a yellow or a red folder. Can you imagine where in his head did he come up with the folder thing? I just like to know.
On the June trip. Aren't your words the first time we came up, I never drove the car at all?
I never drove the first car.
Jessica Day, thank you so much. I noticed woman-centered crime cases get the most attraction. I'd love your take on cases such as Elizabeth Holmes, Lori Vallow, or Shayna Hubers. Yeah, I haven't done. I felt Lori Vallow was so covered, even though they're all those cases are fascinating. And Elizabeth Holmes, really, I know my bestie girlfriend who lives up the block from me said to me she was just beside herself when Elizabeth Holmes got such a light sentence. But that's what money will do. But yeah, you're right. We're fascinated by pretty women criminals in this country. And I think we always have been. Because I think women by nature, and of course, Sarah Lawrence, where I went to college, they would disagree. Some of my professors would disagree. But I think are by nature nurturing. We bear children, and I just think it's in us, in our DNA, and it goes against it to see us, instead of create life, to destroy life or destroy things or destroy others. So odd.
Showing you what's been entered in is Stacey.
And certainly I put Amanda Knox in that list.
First term's in June, correct?
Yes, sir.
You get a
I've literally had, sorry, Jessica, you give me a lot to think about. I've had people argue with me that certain women criminals, I'm thinking of Knox, couldn't have done it because they're so pretty.
For driving that car, right?
Yes, sir.
And in fact, you were alone in that car because you were alone on the first trip.
No, sir, not at all.
So you get a citation, but you weren't driving the car.
That was for Sigfredo.
So Sigfredo was driving, but you get the ticket?
He was with me. I think we had changed. I think we had stopped somewhere, if I remember. I think we had stopped, and we just for that moment, I drove for a little bit.
Isn't this your testimony evolving again? You make a mistake,
It's
you
the
change
same
it.
answer I gave since day one, man. You're not going to sit here and try to confuse me back and forth.
Mr. Rivera, didn't you just say 2 minutes ago to this jury you never drove the first trip?
I can't really remember, but now that you say it, yeah, I mean, when I got the ticket, if that was the first car, I guess.
You remember everything she asked you, but not what I present you with, right?
I tell her the same thing I tell you. If I don't remember, I don't remember. If I say yes, yes. If I say no, it's no.
You make no mistakes about the alleged claims against Ms. Magbanua, but when presented with evidence showing that you're wrong on details, then, I don't remember.
I'm not wrong, bro. Not at all, sir. Everything I say is nothing but the truth.
Let's keep going then.
That's right.
You have the June trip, you have the murder trip. Mr. Rivera, how many trips were made for the purpose of this killing? Actually, let's wait on that for a second. We'll come back in a minute. On direct examination, you testified that the purpose of the June trip, this one, where you got the citation being a passenger, that the purpose of the first trip was to scout it out. That was your testimony yesterday, right?
Yes, sir.
Brief moment, Your Honor. Grand jury, page 8, lines 3 through 6. Mr. Rivera, you appeared before a grand jury back in 2016, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it was for the purpose of, this is after you get your deal, it was for the purpose of indicting Ms. Magbanua, right?
Yes, sir.
I wasn't there, right?
We're in the courtroom?
No defense attorneys were there, correct?
Yes, sir.
None of us were there, right?
Yes.
But she was.
Yes.
Asking you questions.
Yes, sir.
There was a court reporter taking down your words, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you swore to tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Kapman asked you the question. Okay, and what was the purpose of the first trip to Tallahassee? Answer. The purpose of the first trip was to do the murder the first trip. Question, to do the murder? Answer, yeah, but I didn't want to do that.
We were supposed to scope out the place, and if it would have got done, it would have got done that day, but it never happened. So
Your testimony years back was the purpose of the June trip, when you were alone, was to do the murder. That was your testimony, right? To do the murder.
Yes.
But when she asked you yesterday, it's a different answer.
It's been years, man. Can't remember.
When you're in your cell,
I don't think about this. Tell you that one more time. I don't say to myself, think about this. So don't ask me that question again. You're repeating yourself over and over.
Wow. So he doesn't think about it? I would never stop thinking about it. But I don't think I'd be in this position to begin with, but I'd that's lack of conscience. It's like another day. And it's so interesting when he talks about just wanting to rob. Like, why don't we just rob the Adelsons? They got money. Why don't we do that? And a lot of people pointed out, I wish they had. Great point. Right on for the right on. Can't argue there. But another day, guy who just helped you out of the, really didn't get much for it. Help you fix your car, etc. You thank him by robbing him. Just no conscience at all. It's amazing.
Mr. Rivera, let's talk about trips. There was the June trip and then the murder trip, right? Those are two of the trips.
Yes, sir.
But I'm going to ask you an open-ended question. How many trips were there to Tallahassee for the purpose of killing Professor Markell?
2 trips. If I believe it was 2 trips that I say.
2 trips?
Yes, sir.
Second deposition, page 103, lines 16 through 24.
Judge, I'm going to object on this one, improper impeachment.
Do you need to be more specific on the record?
I think so, Judge.
All right, let's go sidebar.
Okay, I'm going to move forward just a tad while they're sidebarring it.
In violation of the agreement where you must give the truth and the complete truth.
I only came out twice.
That's not my question. You would agree with me that if you left out a vital fact, a vital trip, that you would be in violation of your agreement.
Yes.
Can we agree on that?
Yeah.
Now, you've previously sat in that same seat and tried to repair that mistake, haven't you?
No, sir.
You haven't sat up there before and said, you know what? It was Sigfredo Garcia and King Anthony that made a trip. You've never said that before?
Yes, sir. Now you're trying to remember my memory's coming back. Yeah.
Okay.
That was that third trip you're talking about. That he came up with somebody else, not me.
So there is a third trip.
I remember. Now that you say it, yeah, I remember saying that. But you saying that I came up here.
So is that King Anthony? Is he the one the neighbor saw behind Dan Markel's house? And here's a question. Did the alarm going off in Wendy's house, I think it went off 2 times before Dan's murder? Did that have anything to do with this? Them lurking around? And what was in that bag? Or that black object? No, hold on one second. It wasn't a bag. I'm saying it was a bag. The neighbor said it was a black object. What was it? And it had to be something valuable to get wet up to your near to your waist for. Or was that another Stan and Laurel and Hardy type event by these two, or by King Anthony and Sigfredo Garcia, if that's who it was? Meaning, like in Pulp Fiction, he's shooting the car, the line in the car, he's, they're getting tickets. They're posting up pictures of owls, or he is, on social media. Katie's yelling at him to take it down, turn it down, take it down. It's like, it could be a comedy. Talk about get a professional to do it. They were professionals, and we had nothing to do with it. Did Wendy tell you that I gave Dan a hug and made him banana bread the last time I saw him? We had nothing to do with it. It was these awful, terrible, terrible people who did it, not the wonderful Adelson family. Thank you, Donna, for weighing in on that. But those are my questions. And I think it's really interesting, at least for me, to think about what really happened. What's the complete story? We still don't have the complete story. And I feel, and just a reminder, that Wendy Adelson is an unindicted co-conspirator in this case until Wendy is arrested, until Wendy's trial. We won't have the complete story.
3 times. I only came out twice. That third trip was somebody else. You need to say the whole story. You're just saying half of the thing. I said 3. I only came out 3 times. Come on, dog.
I wasn't there. I don't know the truth.
But if it's in that paper, read it out right.
Okay. We. You understand what we means, right?
Yes.
Not they. We.
Yeah.
Okay. But you then tried to correct that, because again, you'd be in violation of that agreement. It was, no, Sigfredo Garcia and King Anthony. But that's what we're focusing on right now. Yes, that you've previously said that there was a third trip, Sigfredo Garcia and King Anthony, right?
Yes, sir.
And you know that because apparently Sigfredo Garcia told you that there was this third trip.
Yes, sir.
You see the stack of paperwork in front of me, right?
I see all that.
You've given sworn testimony 10 times before.
Yes, sir.
The closest that you've gotten to ever mentioning that third trip was the we statement, and then in October of 2019. In your recorded interview, October of 2016, you never mentioned a third trip, right?
I think I did.
Your Honor, Mr. Rivera, your October 4, 2016 statement was roughly 3 hours, correct?
I don't remember.
Let me know if you were a juror, if this would work. So I'm hearing this, and it makes Luis Rivera look maybe a little unreliable, but does it really help Katie? Because, I mean, I guess if you're a defense lawyer, you're going to argue. If you're going to take Luis Rivera's word, but it isn't just Luis Rivera's word. It's a whole lot of other evidence that to convict her. It's phone calls, it's La Dolce Vita recordings. So I don't know how much it really helps Katie, but I get why DeCoste is hammering home on it. Meaning hammering home on these tiny points.
Your Honor, one brief moment.
Luis Rivera looks bored up there, doesn't he?
So it should be in your statement, right?
It should be.
He's like, when is this going to be over? But
It
this is
definitely
like,
wasn't in your discovery, right?
I don't know. I can't read, so I never read that discovery.
Yeah, but you had two attorneys and they reviewed it with you.
I mean, it's been a long time, sir.
So, in the years, let's sidetrack for a moment. In the years, you've had tons of meetings, since your cooperation, tons of meetings with their office, correct?
Yes.
You've sat down for hours on end with investigator Jason Newland, their investigator, not Tallahassee Police Department, with Jason Newland reviewing your testimony.
Don't remember you reviewing no testimony, but I don't remember that.
So all the times that there are orders to transport you from jail to their office wasn't for the purpose of reviewing your testimony?
I mean, yeah, we review, but you talking about my discovery and testimony and all that?
No, what I'm talking about is specifically your testimony, and specifically whether you ever told Jason Newland about a third trip.
I think you're forgetting all his folder training time. That was some heavy time he spent with Georgia Kappelman getting all the folder signals correct in this case. I think they're forgetting about that.
I don't remember.
Okay. So you don't remember whether you told Jason Newland, Agent Patrick Sanford, or investigator Craig Isom about a third trip?
I remember telling them.
So you told them about this third trip?
Yeah, I don't think Jason was there.
Okay, so you told Agent Sanford and investigator Isom about this third trip between Sigfredo Garcia and one of your Latin King brothers?
Yes, sir.
All right. You would agree with me that if you never mentioned that you would be in violation of your cooperation agreement?
Yes, sir. Coleman 1, it's an active yard. It's a real violent yard. They don't play over there.
So, back in 2016, before you're charged in this case, you're in Coleman, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you agree with me that you're able to get access to both legitimate and illegitimate phones while in Coleman, right?
Yeah.
That you were able to have a three-way call with Sigfredo Garcia through
Illegitimate. Yeah. So they're all making three-way calls. This is why when people say, oh, the co-conspirators are not allowed to talk, they always find a way. Don't get fooled by that when judges putting out orders that they're not to talk. They always do. They always find a way to communicate.
one of your brothers.
I ain't never called him on the phone.
I'm sorry?
I never spoke to him on the phone or did a three-way. It was like a text.
Now,
a text service.
now that and some of that happened through a guy named Leanback, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, Leanback is a king,
Yes.
and you would send emails through the system that you have in federal custody to Leanback, and then he would send out texts on your behalf.
Probably sound like one email, I believe.
All right. Now, in May,
I wonder what Leanback was given to do that favor, or if he just did it for a fellow king. They roll like that. It's just funny, Mr. Leanback. You had contact with a gentleman named Leanback. Yeah, yes, I did. And Mr. Leanback.
May of 2016, starting in May of 2016, you're able to communicate via this messaging system with Sigfredo Garcia, correct?
Yes.
Now, during that time, you're also communicating with Jessica Rodriguez, the mother of your children, correct?
Of course.
And you're doing that through email.
Yes, sir.
And her email, correct me if I'm wrong, is siannanegron1020@gmail.com.
Yes, sir.
That's SIANNANEGRON 1020@gmail.com. Right?
Yes, sir.
And on May 10, 2016, right around the time of the wiretaps, you email her asking for Garcia's cell phone number.
Yes, sir.
Do you agree or do you deny that then in May 2016, Sigfredo Garcia is receiving text messages from somebody saying this is Tato?
Yes, sir.
And that's you, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's you sending those messages.
Yes.
Let's stay on the topic of Garcia. Where Garcia lived. He was living on 186th and Biscayne, correct?
Yes.
There's a period of time that he was living with King Anthony, right? If you remember.
Probably, I think so.
Around the time of 2014.
Yeah.
Now let's stay on the topic of Sigfredo Garcia. We'll talk about Katherine. He loved her, right?
He
Still
sure
loves
did.
her.
He sure did.
Crazy about her.
Yes,
Would do anything for her.
of course.
Now, you have known Sigfredo Garcia your entire life, right?
Yes, sir.
You refer to him as brother.
Yes, sir.
Now, this isn't just something that you guys hang out on the weekends. You very much are together in the same community hanging out.
Yes, sir.
You know everything about each other.
Yes, sir.
You know his reputation in the community.
Yes, sir.
You know that his reaction if somebody were sleeping with Katie, he'd confront them, right?
Of course.
Try to run them over.
Yes, sir.
You agree with me that it is in Sigfredo's character that he would find somebody that's sleeping with Katie, right?
Yes, sir.
And hurt them.
Yes, sir.
Meaning, meet them face to face.
Yes, sir.
Would he go
Let's talk now
mano a
about
mano?
the dentist and Katherine. You agree with me that Garcia knew about the relationship.
Yes, sir.
He knew about the relationship with the dentist.
Yes, sir.
He told you that he knew about it.
Yes, sir.
And he also told you he was her boss. The dentist was her boss.
Yes, sir.
And he knew the guy's name.
Yes.
You'd agree with me that Sigfredo Garcia was angry, right?
Yes, sir.
And he was jealous.
Yes, sir.
Now, because of this, because the love of his life was with somebody else, let's back up for a second. Sigfredo Garcia does well with women, correct?
Yes, sir.
Very much a lady.
Yes, sir.
He's got real light green eyes, right?
Yes, sir.
Almost like lime green.
Yes, sir.
Girls flock to him.
Of course.
Charismatic guy, right?
Yes, sir.
Very well spoken, very tough guy, right?
Yes, sir.
And who wouldn't want to flock to that? So for those listening on podcast, they're cutting to a picture of Sigfredo Garcia with his arms folded in a white undershirt and with his arms folded, looking like a tough guy in front of a truck. What a dreamboat that guy is. But listen to how the defense is hammering home that mano a mano story. Right? Always with the mano a mano. Why are they hammering home that story? Because their defense was to play up this idea of jealousy between Charlie and Sigfredo Garcia. And you can see how well it did for them.
But for the first time, he had some competition.
Yes, sir.
Because the guy that he was in competition with had the one thing that he doesn't have, which is finances.
Yes, sir.
Although Sigfredo, being the guy that was very good with women, he was never really financially secure. Right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So because of this, Sigfredo, for the first time, in actual jeopardy of losing Katherine, he was going through a lot, right?
Yes, sir.
He was desperate.
Yes.
He was drinking.
Every day.
He was doing coke, like every day, right?
Every day.
And he was doing it more than usual.
Yes, sir.
It wasn't usual for him to do it every day, but he was off. He was not himself.
Yes, sir.
He was fighting a lot.
Every day.
And this is around the time of 2014 when they're broken up. So between the end of 2013, half of 2014, he's losing it, right?
Yes, sir.
He's violent and erratic.
Yes, sir.
And he actually went so far as to stalking the dentist, right?
Yes, sir.
And you remember a specific time where in that truck, right?
Yes, sir.
That black Dodge truck that you guys went to a restaurant, right?
Yes, sir.
And what you saw was Katherine Magbanua sitting outside with the guy that she was dating, and he was flipping out.
Yes, sir.
He was furious, right?
Yes.
He actually wanted to take that truck and run over the dinner party that they were with, right?
Yes.
He was so angry, you had to stop him.
Yes, sir.
Now let's make sure that we have the context.
So isn't the details of this story very different? Or am I wrong? Or is he on foot? Because so is Katie in the car with Charlie and Sigfredo's on foot? So then how does he want to run him over with the car so much? It's so confusing. And redirect, it's kind of
Before the murder, they're broken
really
up,
interesting what he
right?
has to say about it.
Yes, sir.
And then right after the murder, they're back together, right?
Yes, sir.
What a disgusting thing on Katie's part. You did me this favor, so now we're back together. Ugh.
Mr. Rivera.
So, oh gosh, stomach turning,
Garcia
right?
played you, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes.
He confronted Charles.
What you mean confronting Charles?
Like you said was in his nature, that this guy would confront the guy that was in between him and the woman that he loved.
Yeah.
That was his nature to do that, right?
Yes, sir.
Like you said was in his nature.
Yes, sir.
Like he told you he would do.
Yes.
And that confrontation turned into a negotiation between him and Charles Adelson. Right?
You think they spoke?
You've told us that this guy would absolutely confront that other guy, right?
Of course.
And it would be very awkward. What I'm saying is that Sigfredo Garcia came to you with a job, but he never told you it was for. He couldn't tell you, hey, that guy that I just wanted to run over, we're going to do a job for him. Because you, as a Latin King boss, you would say, that doesn't make any sense. The government told you Katie was involved, right?
No, sir. No, sir.
You went along with it
No, sir.
because you can't fight the feds,
No, sir.
so you took it and ran.
No, sir. She's been involved the whole time. It's the only
Nothing-
one he speaks to.
I'm sorry?
It's the only girl he speaks to is Katie. Whatever she tells him to do, he jumps and do it. That's his weakness. Her right there.
Nothing further, thank you.
All right, redirect.
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh, that was a little tedious there. Every time he said, let me go back, I thought, this didn't seem so long. This didn't seem so long when I was picking out this clip. I thought, how many times is he going to go back? Let's go back. But Queen Georgia brings it home on the cross here. This would be a good time to tell you that I have the Georgia Cappleman Appreciation Society on Facebook. Anybody wants to come and talk about the case or talk about, especially talk about the prosecution team, come hang out. Really great posts in there. Really enjoying it.
Mr. Rivera, you were asked if you agreed to the government's facts. Do you remember being asked that?
What's facts?
Did you agree to the government's facts? I think the question is, did you read or have read to you the reports in this case and then just regurgitate whatever was in the reports? Is that what you did?
No, ma'am.
All right. When you cut a deal, what was your understanding of what you had to do to get the
Cooperate.
benefit of the deal?
Cooperate.
And does cooperate mean regurgitate every single thing that's in the police reports?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, well, what's in the police reports includes Charlie Adelson being involved in this case. You don't know anything about that, do you?
No, ma'am.
So you're not able to regurgitate that fact, are you?
No, ma'am.
Would you agree that it would be helpful to the state? You know we're prosecuting Charlie Adelson, right?
Yes, ma'am.
It would be helpful if you could say Charlie Adelson did it.
Yes, ma'am.
But you can't do that, can you?
No, ma'am.
Because you don't know that fact, do you?
No, ma'am.
The only person that knows that fact is Katherine Magbanua, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Because that's who she was dating.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you did correct us on some things we had wrong, didn't you? And for example, the money drop. You got the money the next morning, not the night of, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And that wasn't in the police reports, was it?
No, ma'am.
We didn't know about that until you told us, did we?
Yes, ma'am.
We didn't know y'all shot a hole in the Prius, did we, until you told us?
Yes, ma'am.
That wasn't in the police reports, was it?
No, ma'am.
Objection, Your Honor.
All right, let's be careful of the leading questions, please.
The facts that you agreed to, did we basically get it right?
Yes, ma'am.
And the facts that you agreed to, are those the facts that you personally have knowledge of?
Yes, ma'am.
Where does Shrimp live?
Miami Beach. I don't know the address, but she's staying in Miami Beach.
Do you remember the map that Mr. DeCote showed you with the little island? Does she live on that island?
Yes.
Out there, okay. And that's where you sent somebody to pick up Garcia to come get the money at Jessica's house the morning after the murder.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And before you sent somebody to go get Garcia from Shrimp's house, did you have your phone in your possession?
I have two phones, and Anthony has my other phone.
All right. And one of the phones that you had in your possession that morning of the money drop, did you use that phone to talk to Katherine Magbanua?
She called me.
And what did she tell you?
She like, who's gonna come get this money?
She had the money and y'all need to come get it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's why you sent somebody out to find Garcia.
Objection, Your Honor, leading.
Yes,
All right.
ma'am.
Ms. Kappelman, let's be careful of leading questions, please. Those are leading questions.
You were asked if Garcia was stupid and made mistakes in this case. Do you recall being asked that?
No,
Did he mess up by talking on the phone, using his phone, making calls?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You were stupid too, weren't you? I mean, you made some mistakes, didn't you?
Both of us. Stupid.
You're wearing blue partially.
So are these two different incidences? So the jet ski incident is different than this incident that they're talking about here? Am I hearing that correct? Okay. All right. Thank you for clearing that up.
Because you got caught in this case, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And you brought a phone to do a murder, yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you rent a car in your own name to come do a murder?
Yes.
Posted something on Instagram from Tallahassee while you were here?
Objection, Your Honor. Leading.
That's not a leading question.
Did you post something?
Yes,
You did?
ma'am.
Okay, so all those are mistakes that ended up helping to get you caught.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and you were shown this exhibit, State's Demonstrative C.
Objection, I didn't show the witness that exhibit.
Have you seen this exhibit before?
Yes, ma'am.
Objection outside of the scope of cross.
Overruled.
All right, and you were asked about the phones that you had. I know you don't remember the phone numbers, it's been too long. But you've seen this exhibit before today, haven't you?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and you were asked about these phones and these phone numbers way back when we first started asking you questions about this case.
Yes, ma'am.
Years ago, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and you authenticated those two phone numbers back at that time when your memory was better as being your phone numbers.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you don't remember those numbers as you sit here today?
I mean, it's been a long time, but
That's okay. I just want to clarify what the situation is with the phone numbers. You did remember them at one time.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, and those, you have seen that exhibit before and authenticated those phone numbers as your phone numbers.
Yes, I have, ma'am.
All right. How long was the deposition at Pullman Prison?
I can't remember
Who was asking you questions?
the two detectives.
No, I'm talking about at the prison when we did the deposition.
Oh, yeah, I can't, I don't know their names like that, but the two lawyers.
The two lawyers were asking you questions?
Yes, ma'am.
And that went on for a whole day, right?
Objection, again leading.
Overruled.
How long did it go on?
I think it was a whole day.
It
You're
was
right.
long, it was a long
It's
time.
a long day.
Okay. All right, and you were asked many, many questions. Among them, were you asked about the trips and how much you were drinking on the trips, how much cocaine you were using on the trips? Were those sorts of questions asked of you?
Yes, ma'am.
And have you always maintained in that deposition and all the other statements that you were in fact using cocaine and alcohol
Objection,
on both
proper,
trips?
improper bolstering, always maintained.
Overruled.
Yes, ma'am.
That's not in dispute, is it?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And when you were asked about this third trip,
I think what is kind of implied when your best friend, you might take part yourself. And when you offer up, I told him, hey, why are you buying this stuff? I have all of this stuff, I'm in that kind of business. What are you doing going to someone else? I think it's implied. No? Am I crazy?
trip, I asked you about in the police reports, there were some things that you didn't agree with. Do you recall something being in the police reports or you being asked questions about a woman seeing two men behind Dan Markel's home sometime before the murder?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And what is your testimony regarding whether that was you behind Dan Markel's home sometime before the murder scene by this lady.
No, ma'am.
You didn't do it.
No.
You weren't there.
No.
So that, if that was Garcia, he had to be with somebody else.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And you don't have any knowledge of when that trip occurred?
No, ma'am.
If that trip even occurred?
No, ma'am.
You weren't here.
No, ma'am.
But if a tall guy and a short guy were behind that home, that wasn't you.
No, ma'am.
And have you always maintained that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So you've never told anybody.
So that wasn't me behind Dan Markel's house. Came out from behind the house, wet from the waist down, holding a black item in one of their hands. He says wasn't him. Was it King Anthony? Was it related? Was it unrelated? Was it workmen who happened to fit the description of these two? Or is there something about, or was Rivera on the trip and there's something about the trip he doesn't want to talk about?
That you came here on a third trip.
Let me know what you guys think in the comments.
Have you ever told anybody that you came to Tallahassee on a third trip?
I only came on 2 trips.
All right. And in the deposition taken of you on March 22nd, 2019, you say, and I'm on the bottom of page 109, starting on line 23, question, why would he have gone with Anthony? Answer, because he was one of us. We used to hang out together, and there was some short person that went back there, supposedly in the back of the house, and I ain't never walked back there. And he's short like me. Is King Anthony short?
Yes, ma'am.
Like you?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's why you thought maybe this is the person this
Objection, Your
woman
Honor.
saw.
Leading and proper impeachment. We've got leading questions and reading a transcript.
All right, Ms. Kappelman, this is redirect. You're asking leading questions. I understand your...
This is Georgia Kappelman. If she has any weakness, it's leading. So I hear a leading objections getting sustained with Georgia Kappelman's examinations more than any other kind of objection.
You're moving things along.
Yes, sir.
But you need to clear up your questions and not ask them in a leading form, okay? Or else I'm going to start interrupting you from this point forward.
Yes, sir. And so how did you learn that someone was seen behind the house, some short guy?
I heard it from a detective.
All right. And did you or did you not, or something else, disagree that you were the one that was back there?
I was never back there.
So what Georgia Kappelman's trying to achieve with this redirect is hammer home the fact that Luis Rivera wasn't handed facts. She has no folder system, that he's not making up stories just to get a deal. That is the point of this redirect, and I think it's effective.
It wasn't you.
No, ma'am.
All right. Do you enjoy having to testify against your friends?
No, ma'am.
Would it have been easier for you if your testimony could have been against someone else, a stranger?
Not at all. Nobody.
You think it'd been hard no matter what you had to do?
Yes, ma'am.
But was it particularly hard?
There's a leading question right there. At where she's stuck is that Luis Rivera is not a wordsmith. I think that's the understatement of all time. But so to get him to talk is like pulling teeth. So she's really exhausted with trying to get testimony out of him, because he knows he's been living this lifestyle, if you want to call it a lifestyle, on the wrong side of the law for so long. He knows the less he says, the better. We're right at the end here, guys.
That you have to testify against your best friend and his wife?
That's hard. It hurts.
Were you loyal to these folks before this all went down?
Yes, ma'am.
when did the defendant and Sigfredo Garcia get back together after the murder? When was the first time they got back together?
Can't remember.
Do you remember giving testimony previously that occurred at the Manny Pacquiao fight?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and the Manny Pacquiao fight was in May of
Objection, Your Honor.
2015, wasn't it?
Improper refreshment that is just being said in open court to the witness.
Overruled.
When was the Manny Pacquiao fight?
I don't remember what day was it. I know it was on a Saturday. And that's the day they got together because I tried to put them, me and Jessica tried to put them together. Because I went and bought some shirts from her that day.
All right, and so it wasn't until approximately 10 months after the murder that they got together, or was it right after the murder as you were asked on cross-examination?
Objection, Your Honor. Improper refreshment. If we can go sidebar.
No. Overruled.
Can't remember.
This judge is just understanding that Georgia is just so frustrated trying to pull testimony out of this guy. He's like, if we go sidebar and Georgia doesn't lead maybe even slightly, we will never get out of here. This guy is of such few words, man of such few words. Forget it.
Okay, can you remember that it was definitely the fight, or could it have been sooner?
Probably the fight.
Your recollection, it occurred at the fight.
Probably the fight.
Okay, but you just don't remember when the fight was.
Yeah, I don't remember when the fight was.
Okay. All right, let's talk about this supposed confrontation that occurred at a restaurant. You know which one I'm talking about, where you were with Sigfredo Garcia watching Katie with the dentist at the restaurant?
On the truck, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And during that whole episode, did Sigfredo Garcia ever get out of the car?
I can't remember.
So he might have gone up and confronted the dentist and you just don't remember?
No, he never got off the car and confronted him at all.
All right, that's my question.
Okay.
Did the two meet?
No, ma'am.
Did they fight?
No, ma'am.
Did they have a verbal argument?
No, ma'am.
Did Sigfredo Garcia confront him that night about, hey, you're
No,
sleeping
ma'am.
with my woman?
No.
All right, and is that something he would have told you if
Yes.
he had done that?
Objection, speculation, move to strike.
That is speculation. That's sustained.
What type of relationship did you have with Sigfredo Garcia back then?
We had a great relationship. That was like my brother.
All right, did he confide in you? Everything he did he tell you everything?
Objection, speculation.
It's overruled.
Did he tell you everything?
Basically everything, yes, ma'am.
You were together every day, weren't you?
Every day.
All right, and you were there when this incident occurred at the restaurant,
Yes, ma'am.
and that it didn't happen as far as him confronting the dentist.
No, ma'am.
No face-to-face.
Nope.
No physical.
Nope.
Objection, asked and answered multiple times.
Overruled.
And what did y'all do after that confrontation? How did you unwind him?
We left. I said, man, we can't. He wanted to run the truck right through the restaurant. Tell him, nah, we ain't finna do that. Not with me in the truck. But we ended up leaving. We just left.
All right, do you remember what y'all did that night?
No.
Did you hang out together?
Every day we hang out.
Okay, and that night was no exception?
We hung up that night. I don't know where at.
Okay, well, you don't have to know where, but did y'all spend time together, and did he recover himself from being as upset as he was?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. All right, nothing further, Judge.
All right. Do you?
Okay, there it is. Luis Rivera, man of few words. Getting his folder signals. I'm being sarcastic, of course. I just find it very funny. That whole story. Katie's hoax, of course, fell flat. It's just so funny. It was explosive new testimony, explosive new evidence. You notice that our press never says really bizarre story. Like, for example, Scott Peterson, now ABC is taking up his cause. Unreal. Laughed out. The whole Free Scott Peterson movement should And they're giving it weight by examining it, and then having, what's her name, Sunny Hostin from The View out there going, oh, I'm taking it really seriously. She has so many Innocence Project people. I wonder, there's got to be some connection. I just want to show you some new memes from Dr. Zap. So, dear Harvey, how are you? The postcards from Tallahassee. Dear Harvey, how are you? I hope you're doing okay. This is insane. At least I'm in a gated community. I hope you'll come and visit me sometime soon. Love, Donna. Also from Dr. Zap, I want you dead. I want you dead. Here's some banana bread. It'll be the last banana bread you ever have. And of course, my cat, I'll let you out in a second, honey. Jeopardy. My cat doesn't like shut doors, and I cannot hold on. Charlie the Maestro playing Jeopardy. Wendy as Veruca Salt from Willy Wonka. And of course, an old picture. I've never seen that before, Dr. Zap, of Harvey and Donna. Or is that Harvey and Donna? I guess, or maybe those are like pageant winners. Let me know in the chat. And also another, I didn't ask this person if they want to be identified, but I'll just say they sent me this. It's up in my Georgia Cattleman Appreciation Society sent me this. I thought it was so great. Donna's banana bread, kosher style. Thought that was fun. Another victim impact letter. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. Can I let my cat out in third? If you are enjoying this episode of my True Crime Report, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode. Get access to exclusive podcasts and other bonus content by becoming a patron today. If you have a question or comment for me, shoot me a super chat and I'll do my best to answer it and read it on air. Thanks so much. Now back to the show. How many of you have cats who don't like closed doors? I'll raise my hand. Let us get into victim impact for today. Okay. I thought I made it a little bit bigger. Here we go. So this was written September 23rd, 2019. Judge to the Honorable and I were friends from around 1996 until his death. I've been friends with his brother-in-law since high school days. And when I moved to Toronto, I was often included in Markel Shabbat dinners and other holiday celebrations. Dan and I never lived in the same city, and we didn't see each other often, but Dan always made the effort to reach out and stay connected. I happened to meet him when I was making some decision about a relationship and my job at the time. Dan's capacity for listening and offering sound advice was astounding. His strong values, deep connection with his Jewish identity, incredible intelligence, and dedication to his career challenge, my acquiescence to my life situation vis-a-vis career and relationship, his very presence in my life brought out my strengths. I think I could have fallen in love with him if we lived in the city, or as we joked, our styles of travel were similar. I'm a backpack and he is a planner. I am a backpacker and he is a planner. As many others have attested to, the members of the Markel family are incredibly warm and loyal. Dan's boys were the light of his life and brought great joy to his whole family. They are being deprived of their grandparents, cousins, aunts, uncles, and many friends that make up the fabric of the Markel community. I miss Danny a lot. He brought a perspective to my life that I haven't found in anyone else. I am grateful for the time we spent together and hope this trial brings some peace to him and to his family. Sincerely, Julie Christophe, Montreal, Canada. That's what I have for today. Please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment. Really makes a difference with the algorithm, and I do get so much out of the comments, and maybe even we'll read one on the next episode. Leave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and I'll be back Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Have a great night, everybody.